Look down from above almost any American city at night and you can see a decision made in 1956. Bright lines loop around downtowns, split into ramps, cross rivers, cut toward suburbs, warehouses, airports, ports, shopping centers, farms, factories, and distant state lines. The interstate highway system can feel so ordinary that it almost disappears, but it was not inevitable. It was built by law, taxes, engineering, Cold War anxiety, political bargaining, and thousands of local fights over land. On June 29, 1956, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the Federal Aid Highway Act. The law authorized a national network of controlled access highways on a scale the United States had never attempted, roughly 41,000 miles at the start, financed through a new system of federal highway funding and fuel taxes. It promised speed, safety, military readiness, and national unity. It also helped reshape where Americans lived, how goods moved, which neighborhoods prospered, and which were carved apart. The story begins before Eisenhower was president. In 1919, as a young Army officer, he joined a military convoy that tried to cross the United States from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco. The trip became a lesson in the country's weak road system. Vehicles broke down, bridges failed, mud swallowed wheels, and the convoy moved slowly through a nation that was politically united on maps but not yet connected by reliable pavement. The memory stayed with Eisenhower because roads were not just conveniences. They were the skeleton of national movement. The second lesson came during the Second World War. Allied officers saw how Germany's Autobahn network could move men and machines across long distances. The military value of modern highways became impossible to miss. Roads meant logistics, logistics meant power. By the late 1940s and early 1950s, American policymakers were not only thinking about vacation travel or commercial trucking. They were thinking about troop movement, evacuation, civil defense, industrial supply chains, and the ability of a continental nation to respond quickly in crisis. The United States already had highways before 1956. It had named roads, U.S. routes, state systems, parkways, turnpikes, and city streets. But much of the network passed through towns, traffic lights, railroad crossings, and two-lane bottlenecks. Long-distance driving could be slow and dangerous. Trucks shared narrow roads with local traffic. Growing car ownership put pressure on a system never designed for mid-century mobility. The post-war boom made the old roads feel like a national constraint. The political problem was money. Everyone could agree that better roads were useful. Fewer agreed on how to pay for them. Earlier proposals stumbled over state control, tolls, debt, and federal authority. The breakthrough came through a bargain, a large national system, mostly federally funded, with dedicated revenue from fuel and vehicle-related taxes flowing into the Highway Trust Fund. The design turned millions of routine purchases at the pump into the financial engine for a public works project of unprecedented scale. Eisenhower did not invent the idea alone. Engineers, planners, members of Congress, state highway departments, the Bureau of Public Roads, trucking interests, construction firms, automobile clubs, defense planners, and local officials all shaped the coalition. But Eisenhower's authority mattered. A five-star general and president could speak about roads as national infrastructure, national defense, and national destiny. The law's formal title was not romantic, its consequences were. The new interstates were meant to be different from ordinary roads. They used controlled access, limited cross-traffic, wider lanes, shoulders, medians, graded curves, and interchanges. The goal was not merely a longer road, but a road system with rules, fewer interruptions, higher speeds, predictable design, and connections across state lines. A driver could enter near one city and cross half a continent without meeting a stoplight. That was a new kind of geography. Construction changed the landscape. Crews graded hillsides, cut through rock, poured concrete, laid asphalt, built bridges, raised overpasses, and carved cloverleafs into farmland and urban edges. The work employed engineers, surveyors, laborers, equipment operators, steelworkers, and planners. It also created a visual language that became familiar: green signs, numbered shields, sweeping ramps, rest areas, service exits, median strips, and the roar of tires on pavement. For business, the system was transformative. Trucks could move freight faster and more predictably. Warehouses and factories could locate near interchanges. Perishable goods could travel farther. National retail chains gained a physical platform. Motels, diners, gas stations, and later big-box stores clustered around exits. The interstate did not create American consumer culture by itself, but it gave that culture a powerful set of roots. For families, the highways changed the meaning of distance. Suburbs became easier to reach from urban job centers. Weekend trips, cross-country vacations, and commuting patterns expanded. The road trip became a national ritual, but so did the long daily commute. The interstate promised freedom of movement, and for many Americans it delivered exactly that: faster travel, safer long-distance routes, and access to places that once felt remote. The gains were real, but they were not evenly distributed. Urban freeway construction often targeted neighborhoods with the least political power. Black communities, immigrant districts, and working-class areas were split by concrete trenches and elevated roadways. Homes and businesses were condemned, local streets were severed, noise and pollution increased. In some cities, the highway became a wall between communities and opportunity. The same ramp that connected suburbs to downtown could disconnect the people who already lived there. This is the central tension in the interstate story. It is one of the most successful infrastructure projects in American history and one of the most consequential planning choices. It made travel faster and commerce more efficient. It also encouraged sprawl, car dependence, fossil fuel consumption, and the decline of some older urban neighborhoods. To praise the engineering without seeing the costs is too easy. To see only the damage and miss the national transformation is also incomplete. The law passed in the Cold War, and that matters. The language of defense helped justify scale and urgency. Highways could move military equipment and support evacuation plans in an age of nuclear fear. Some of that civil defense logic was more persuasive politically than practically, but it gave the system a national security aura. Infrastructure was not just local improvement, it was part of how a superpower imagined resilience. The interstate also changed time. Before limited access highways, towns could sit on the main road and be part of every journey. After the interstate, some places became exits and others were bypassed. A diner on an old highway might lose traffic overnight when the new route opened miles away. A farm near an interchange might become valuable commercial land. The map of opportunity shifted from the old main street to the ramp. Safety was one of the strongest selling points. Divided highways with controlled access reduced many head-on and intersection crashes compared with older roads. Yet higher speeds created new dangers, and mass automobility brought its own death toll. Over time, guardrails, signage, seatbelts, speed rules, drunk driving laws, vehicle standards, and emergency response all became part of the broader highway safety story. The road system was never a finished machine. It required constant adaptation. The environmental consequences were also long-lasting. Highways encouraged longer commutes, dispersed land use, and dependence on cars and trucks. They changed wetlands, forests, farms, and city air. Later generations would ask questions that the 1950s coalition often pushed aside. What does mobility cost in land, fuel, health, climate, and local community? Those questions did not erase the interstate's achievements. They made the bill more visible. By the time the network matured, it had become both infrastructure and identity. Americans learned to navigate by interstate numbers, exits, and beltways. Political arguments formed around road funding, speed limits, bridge repair, transit, congestion, and whether cities should remove or cap old freeways. A system created to solve mid-century problems became the stage for 21st century debates about equity, climate, logistics, electric charging, and the future of work. Eisenhower's name remains attached to the system because he understood the strategic power of movement. But the interstate was not the work of one man. It was the product of federalism, engineering culture, tax policy, defense thinking, business demand, local ambition, and public desire for mobility. Its greatness and its harm both came from that breadth. It was too large to be only a road project. It was a national reorganization. On June 29, 1956, the signature on the law did not pour concrete by itself. It opened the channel through which money, machines, plans, and political authority could flow for decades. The result connected the country in ways earlier Americans had imagined but not achieved. It also left scars that are still visible from the air, from the sidewalk, and from the neighborhoods that learned what progress could destroy. The past made clear is not that highways are simply good or bad. It is that infrastructure is a choice that keeps speaking after the builders leave. A road can shorten a journey, carry an army, move a harvest, sell a house, erase a block, launch a business, or divide a city. The interstate highway system remade America because it was never only pavement. It was a map of national priorities, poured in concrete and driven every day.